And yes, welcome back, everybody, to the Train Effective podcast. Today, guys, I have a very special guest, somebody I've been chatting to for a little bit. Robbie Kiernan. How are you, bro?
I'm very well, my man. Thank you for having me. Thank you for taking the time out your day, mate, to get me on, and I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Listen, I'm excited about this because you've played at clubs that a lot of people know about. You've played in games that a lot of people have seen. You've played everywhere, but you have. I feel like you got good insights, not just on obviously like football world, professional world, all that stuff, but the mental side of football and the side that many people obviously don't see, and many people in general in life don't see. So I want to get right into it. I don't want to waste any time. Tell me about your career, where you started playing, where you are now, and how'd you get there?
Yeah, no, listen, I agree with what you said there. So let's take it back. As a 6-year-old, I had signed for my local team, which was Watford Football Club, who I managed to sign for through the academy into the professional team, and managed to get 2 appearances in the first team before moving on to Wigan Athletic, who at the time were a Premier League team. From there, I had to go out on loan a little bit to go and get some experience. Obviously, playing and training with these Premier League footballers at that age was a big leap for me, and I was nowhere near ready for that. Physically, I was miles off it in terms of being ready to go and play the big boys. But I managed to go and get some games on loan, and then I got recalled back once Wigan actually got relegated into the English Championship, and that was where I got my first break, really. I managed to secure my place in that team. And from there, flourished a little bit. I managed to find my feet. I found that this was my level. Playing against some very good players. Obviously, that league is tough. It's intense. You have Premier League players in there that have either been relegated or, have taken a drop down through, I don't know, luck, a little bit of, performance-wise, whatever it might be. But still very high caliber of player, From there, I managed to go on a loan to Birmingham. I had a very good manager there called Gary Rowett. He took me, and I was actually going to sign for Birmingham until a big club named Glasgow Rangers came in and offered me an opportunity to go and play there, which I couldn't turn down at the time. And it was by far the highlight of my career. It's a completely different world up there. And you talked earlier about the mental aspect. And I think this is probably a good place to start with that, because when you go and sign for a team like Rangers, there's a lot of things to consider. Okay, instead of just playing football and performing on a field, there's obviously a huge amount of pressure. Okay, the spotlight is on you. There's a different media up there in terms of outlet sources and media coverage. So you're constantly under scrutiny and in the eyes of the public. You're expected to win games week in, week out. And Rangers have had some incredible times, both in Europe and, obviously domestically. And their fans, they're accustomed to that. And when you walk into that atmosphere, into that building, into those shoes of those former players, you kind of trying to hold yourself to those high standards to try and, replicate or, get anywhere close to what they were. And obviously, I'd never compare myself to anyone, obviously, of that level or that caliber. But, putting on that shirt, there comes a certain expectation. And, like we mentioned before, I just think the mental aspect of that is, doing the training, doing the work behind the scenes is one thing. Actually performing and doing it on that stage week in, week out takes a lot of mental strength and a lot of maturity. It takes a lot of setbacks, because ultimately every mistake you make gets, it gets highlighted times 10. And that's difficult at times when, you have such scrutiny of, social media. Everything these days is a lot different, I think, to what it was maybe 10, 15 years ago, just with the internet, So the mental side of that was the biggest challenge for me. And, I had experiences where, I didn't play well. I was at fault for certain goals, or I was at fault for, a bad performance. And that was a tough place to pick yourself up again and go again, because, everyone wants to see you fail. It's easy for everyone to fail. You can point the finger, you can, say, well, that's that person's fault. But how does that person then get up again and then dust themselves off and then go and present themselves in a better manner,
Yeah, I think the big one that you kind of touched on was pressure. Like I feel when you sign for Rangers, and I think Rangers is like huge club. Yeah, everyone knows who Rangers are. But when you sign, there's obviously that excitement. You said one of the biggest moments and achievements of your career. But when you signed, did you also immediately think like, oh, wherever I've been so far in terms of my level of playing, I need to I need to level up. How did you feel like excitement and pressure at the same time, or how was that?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with what you're saying there. Obviously, coming from the English Championship, that's probably deemed to be a very high level. Okay,
Yeah.
so the players, the teams involved in that league are, they're big boy profiles, if you like. Um, the thing that I found was that every time we played a different team in Scotland in Rangers was their cup final. All right, so
Mm,
we had to go out and win that game. We had to go out and perform. There was no sort of days or games where, some teams might travel away and look for a point, and that might be a good result for them. For us, that was just non-existent. We had to go out every single game, home or away, and go and win. Now, as a professional, that's tuned into you from an early age, because ultimately the fun goes once you get into those academies, because the pressure is there. Do you know what I mean? It's not so much
yeah.
kicking the ball down with your friends anymore. It's actually, well, I'm in the academy system and I'm trying to get a professional contract, even at the age of 9, 10, 11. You
Yeah.
kind of built into that system. So I think we're all kind of prepared for it. It's just, obviously, football's a roller coaster. You win some, you lose some, you draw some, whatever it might be, and it's how you mentally deal with that aspect. And also, that crest that you're wearing on your left chest, that comes with its own pressure. So my foundations were already there. Obviously, we're Watford, Birmingham, Wigan, Brentford, great teams, unbelievable teams. But I felt like up there it was just a different kettle of fish.
Yeah. What's the did you ever play against this maybe one part I might have missed in my research. Did you ever play against Celtic?
Yeah, I played four old firm games, so I played 4 times.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right. Well, hey, listen, we have to get into that. How? Because you say different kettle of fish, but
nah,
that's like
that's that
even
you can't
more.
explain
How
that to
is that?
someone unless you physically go there
Yeah.
and feel the energy in that stadium and hear the noise. Like you can't hear a teammate 15, 10 yards away. Like
Yeah.
you can't give information. So the game itself is actually a lot harder purely because of the noise.
Yeah.
Um, the media build up the week prior is huge. Even little things like from the hotel, you're getting police escorted through the city
Yeah.
to the game. Like the fans get like caged off. Like there's cages that will separate obviously away
Yeah.
and home fans. There's obviously a religion background.
Mm,
There's a war that's involved with that. So like, and even myself, like I come from an Irish background. My dad's Irish and my mum's English. So I have that blood in me where I sometimes looked, it kind of felt like an uphill battle already just from the background, but I didn't really understand or know too much about that until I kind of got there, and then I really sort of saw what it meant and understood the history behind it. And so, like, listen, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that a lot of people don't recognize or see. Um, that it's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to deal with. Yeah.
did you and maybe it's time to kind of I don't know. So before that, because did you ever feel nerves? Like, do you feel nerves?
Yeah.
Do you
Absolutely.
feel nervous? Like,
Absolutely.
how is that? Because you also have to. It to me, like, so I'm big, obviously, on mentality and all that. So from afar, I always watch. My favorite team is Arsenal. I always watch Arsenal Tottenham, and I'm like, oh, like the pressure is huge. But these players, like, they're trained, like physically and mentally, to deal with these situations and matches. Like, but surely there's that human aspect where it's like there's 40, 50,000 people in here. Everyone in the land is watching it. UK probably. It's on Sky or BT or whatever. How do you overcome those nerves and nervousness
No,
and
like
still
I'll be
perform?
honest with you, yeah, there is obviously methods that you can train yourself to do that. Your breath work, all that kind of visualization stuff. But like I said to you earlier, like you kind of just got to jump in the deep end. And a lot of the boys, it's either sink or swim. And the first Old Firm game that we played was at Hampden Park. I think it's 50, 55, might be touching 60. I'm not sure what the full capacity is, but it's a big one. Um, And we hadn't beaten them, I think, in like 4 or 5 years, because that was when obviously the rebuild happened after the administration, all that kind of stuff. So that was a big game. Everyone wanted to kind of see, where we were in comparison to Celtic, and we actually managed to win that game on penalties. So that was a big moment for me personally, and obviously my teammates and the gaffer, Mark Warburton, because that hadn't been done in such a long time that it was kind of like, okay, we're back. Okay, we're kind of maybe where we're at. We steamrolled the championship, to be fair. And then obviously beating Celtic was a nice one because, it was kind of just like an indication of how far we'd come and obviously where we're at. The unfortunate thing then is that they recruited Brendan Rodgers the season after, and I think they signed about 6 or 7 big players that were very good players, and I think they went on to be unbeaten that season after. So, in a way, it was an amazing achievement, but it also it kind of maybe alerted them to maybe go and recruit well, which they obviously did. But listen. So the mental element is a massive one, and the pressure is there. No matter what anyone says, no matter how good you are, no matter how many times you played in that game, like. I think we had something like over 20 million viewers at the time, and worldwide. So like, we're talking about a lot of people watching that game. Yeah. And obviously, yeah, you're right. There's millions watching on the TV. So, all eyes are on you at that point, and it is a pressured environment. I'll be honest.
Yeah, and another one where that's pressure. This one that I'm about to speak on can be viewed in a couple different ways. From my perspective, I always give players like the benefit, because it's like very few people on earth can perform at that level for a long time consistently under that pressure every day and make the sacrifices that you all make. Because Rob, like from afar, a lot of, if you see fans talking about like, he's getting paid this much, he should be able to have a good first touch, when you might have 1,000 amazing, I don't know, back passes to your keeper, but the one you mess up on, they all come crashing down. They're like, oh, he can't pass. He gets paid, he can't pass. But so another thing people talk about and make assumptions on is loan moves. When they see a player go on loan multiple times, they just think, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? But in reality, it could be a development thing. It could be fit. It might not be a good fit. It's timing. It's maybe a new manager coming in. It's all these aspects that people overlook. And when you go on loan multiple times, you're always having to adapt to different environments. It's different clubs. How was that? How did you cope with changing?
That's a great question. That's a great insight as well. So let me run it back. So I am 17 years old. I just signed a professional contract at Watford. I'm never going to play in the first team. So knock on the door. Hey, Mr. Gaffer, I'd like to go and play some games. Cool. Let me go do some calls. Yep, you're going off to Yeovil for a month. Cool, no problem. I'm going to go pack my bags, off I go, because I'm so desperate just to play some games. I'm like, I don't care where I need to go right now.
Yep.
Give me a shirt, give me some games. I think I went alone like when I was younger, several times just to go and get 3, 4, 10 games, whatever it might be, because I was like, if I can go and get those amount of games, my gaffer here might have a little bit more trust in me to think, okay, yeah, maybe he can be the backup centre back. Or is he going to say, nah, Rob, you played no games. You don't know what it's like in a stadium. You're no good to me. So unfortunately, as a centre-back and probably a goalkeeper, you're never going to get subbed on. So even if you manage to get on the bench as a young player, you're not coming on. So you have to go and find a way to go and get games. And if you think about it as well, most of your experienced players are often your centre-backs, your goalkeepers, and maybe a midfielder in there. So the spine of the team is normally the older age players who bring that calmness and bring that authority and that sort of captain role, if you like. Now, I look back onto all the teams I was at as a youngster. I had captains of international players. I had seasoned vets. I had boys that have played over 300, 400 games. There was no chance I was ever going to go and do it. So it's a daunting, it's a daunting thought having to pack your bags and just go and move somewhere. But I left home at 16. I never returned. I was living on my own, learning how to cook, how to clean, how to pay bills, all the stuff that comes under that umbrella. Yeah. Again, it was kind of like sink or swim. Like, you got to get on with it. We don't have the manual in front of us to show, like, this is what you do. It's kind of like, off you go, mate. And this is something now that I'm very interested with. I speak very closely with some of the academies back home and how they do it. And Manchester United are probably the best at it. The programs that they have in place for their players, they're teaching them life skills, not just how to be footballers. So I think now it's really, really evident that, these academies have to produce human beings as well as, professional footballers,
Because that's a fantastic point, because one thing I see, and I think everybody sees a lot, is when you get released because at your age, let's say 16, 17, at that age, kids, boys, like people who haven't lived adult lives yet, their whole life has been football and I guess school or whatever, and they get released. And then it's like, what's next?
It's awful. It's awful.
Many go into non-league and work their way up, which is fantastic and great. But what would you say to those players that do get to that age, 16, 17, 18, and even here in America, how it is obviously you're aware, at 18, you go to college, you play in uni. What would you say to those players in that 16, 17, 18-year range where nothing's happening? You get released. I mean, if you get released and no opportunities, that's when I feel like a lot of players can really harm themselves mentally and, God forbid, physically as well, because it's like you're being told something you work hard at every day. It's your whole life. You're being told you're not good enough here at this place. What would you tell those players?
Do you know what, mate? I have such a big opinion on this. So Crystal Palace have just created a program that after 5 years, if a player gets released or doesn't make it as a professional, they will, help that player for the next 5 years. Okay, I think the PFA have done stuff where they're, looking at school programs, education programs. You sacrifice your whole life towards a goal, and you get turned down at the age of 16, and your whole life, everything that you've known, has now vanished because you didn't have those backup plans. You didn't have those other, goals. You were so solely focused on and visioning that, that end, big stadium and that name on the shirt. That, first of all, the emotion that must come with that is destroying at times, because I've had friends that have gone through that,
Yep.
and look, that I think, again, that presents your character. I think that shows you who you really are. Can you dig deep? Can you roll your sleeves up? Can you then go and grind and hustle it out at the lower leagues to go and put yourself back up in that shop window? A lot of the players have done that, and I think that's incredible. Like to endure that pain and then actually turn it around as a positive is insane. Like that for me is just the best version of what you can do with yourself. On the flip side of that, you're right. There's guys that have, unfortunately, we've seen it in the news, that have, the mental health aspect is a real one. And this is why I think, a lot of the clubs have to invest into their players. Okay, so you're not good enough for the first team, no problem. But you are a human being still. You can offer stuff. You have qualities that football has taught you that you can be used in the real world. And I'm very passionate on the fact that these clubs are doing it, which is great. But I still think we need to do more. And obviously the coaching side of it, that's another way, that's another avenue, because obviously you have such wealth of experience and you have such a background in something, that why would you not then use that to your advantage and also actually, maximize your knowledge to the younger generation to help emulate them, go past where maybe you got to, and that's something that obviously I'm touching on now, going into this sort of latter stage of my career. Is like, okay, I've had a great time. I've had a great experience. This journey's been great. But, the world moves on, the world keeps spinning. So It's now, how do I navigate, to my sort of, look into the future? How do I then, use my experiences to my advantage,
With that coaching, because I know you're playing in the US right now, but you're also doing coaching as well. What do you like what age range do you coach right now? First of all,
actually, coach, we actually have ages from 6 up to professionals, so it's not got an age limit on it. However, I'm more interested in developing the real talent that has that, dedication. The mindset, I think, for me, is something that I noticed straight away. There's a lot of talent here in America, and a lot of the teams are shopping in this market because they know it's cheap. And I think obviously the weather here permits kids being out from, whatever hours it might be, because it's such a beautiful place to live. Don't get me wrong, and it's not grey, it's not cold. Kids aren't playing their PlayStations because it's the sun shining, and there's there's surfing, there's biking, there's hiking, there's skiing, you name it, you can do it here. And obviously all the American sports, as well that fall under that. But I think here, like the talented kids, I'm really interested in. And I think we'll see a lot more, start filtering into Europe very soon in the next sort of, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yep. I wanna ask this because this is I think it's a bit of a gray area for a lot of people, and this is something I struggle to answer as well. So maybe you have insight on it, because you've obviously experienced it growing up, especially from a young age. If you do want to become a professional, not just footballer, Rob, like anything, you do have to put a lot of focus, emphasis, and all. Not, I'm not gonna say all your eggs, but you have to put a lot into that thing. Yeah. So, because I mean, trying to become a professional footballer, but also trying to become a, I don't know, a lawyer at the same time. One of those might suffer.
Yeah.
Yep. So your coach, like, because you're coaching, do you suggest players just stay headstrong, tunnel vision on the football, or do you recommend them to have like other things in place as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So expand on that a little bit.
You have to be obsessed with your main focus in life. Don't get me wrong. There also is the reality of overloading. There's the suffocating in what you're doing. You have to be balanced in that aspect. So, and again, it's the whole cliche thing, but it is genuinely, how I feel. It's, you have to work smarter and not harder, because we can all go out and work from the sunshine to the sunset, right? Sorry, the rise to the sunset. No problem. We can all do that. But how are you dissecting your game? How are you actually breaking your game down? Where are your weaknesses, and how are you then repeating them till they become a habit? That, for me, is the magic ingredient. Because, let's talk about the greats, yeah? Ronaldo, there's Messi, whoever you want to talk about. Yes, the compound effect of the hours they spent playing on the streets and the hustle that they've obviously gone through is evident, no problem. But once you kind of get to the level where, okay, yeah, I'm established. Okay, I'm definitely good at this now. But now I'm talking about the details. Like, the details come from dissecting the game. Okay, so let's say my left foot pass, driving it into the front man as a left back isn't great. Well, we need to go and get 100 balls, and we need to go and repeat that until it becomes natural. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to, I'm working hard, I'm going to the gym, I'm running around. Okay, great. But is that specifically working on you? Because this is what happens now. As you go to the next level, everyone's got technical ability. Everyone's physically conditioned. Everyone's mindset will separate them, because they'll now understand, okay, the game knowledge and obviously the maturity that comes with that, and the experience. That's something that you can't really cheat. It kind of comes with age. But dissecting your game and working on that, I think, is what's going to separate you. Because the generic training that a lot of the players go through, they go through their warm-up, their keep ball, their passing drills, maybe crossing, finishing, great. But you're not dissecting your game into your weaknesses. And no one will know your weaknesses as well as you do. For me, it was 1v1 defending. I wasn't a defender growing up. I was a centre midfielder. I moved back to the back four when I was 17 years old, 16 years old. I couldn't naturally do those things as well as the other boys could, but I could do on the ball stuff much better. Yep. So for me, I had to go and break that 1v1 defending down, the heading, all the ugly bits that I used to call it. And for me, that was working smarter, not harder. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Man, I was smiling while you were saying that, because I'm always preaching that exact thing, because that's how I learned how to play, essentially. I started playing Rob around probably age 14, 15, and I had to learn quick. And my way of learning quick wasn't going to team training, because by that time in the US, they're not really teaching you small technical skills. You're just going to training, at least where I was, 6v6, 4v4, 5v3, stuff like that at training. So I had to really dissect, okay, for my position, I don't know, number 8 central midfielder, what am I doing the most? I need to work on my body positioning. I need to watch matches and work on positioning. I always try to emphasize these things. And I don't know if you're familiar with our camps, but this is one thing I really like about our camps is our coaches there at the Train Effective camps. They'll stop the game, but they won't stop the game for your normal stuff. Like, why did you pass here? They'll stop it for legit reasons, such as, like, you crowded his space, or if you get it on the half turn, if you open your body up, you'll be able to turn quicker, stuff like that. So,
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm so happy you said how you have to dissect and be specific. Because like you said, at a certain level, everyone's like this.
Right.
Happening, their control, all that stuff is going to be like that. And that's where those details come in. Like exactly what you just said, playing the ball forward into your midfielder, your strike as a left back. I love that. It's so deliberate as well. And that's, I think I was watching, what's his name? Brian, I think. Tafazoli, you've probably seen him on YouTube before, but he said the same thing. Yeah. You have to practice these match situations.
Absolutely.
Like that. Because you can dribble through cones as many times as you want, which is good. Like, yes, develop your technical ability, but make it match like after that. You know, once you get to a certain level, make it match like. I want to kind of pivot into what you're doing now because you're working with players. What are some things you emphasize to the players that you see? Rob, you see these players, you're like, okay, he's got it. He could definitely go far in the game. What are some things that you kind of emphasize to them?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, yeah, so just to rewind that, so my current situation right now is that unfortunately I've got an injury that was sustained last season and carried on to this season. I played for a bit of pain to go and win the USL Championship, which is what we kind of achieved, which was great. But unfortunately now I'm in a position where I'm actually going to have to get an operation on the hip just to help clean out some of the tissue and all that stuff. So my role right now is obviously trying to get fit, trying to play and make sure that my body's healthy before I, do that again. But it obviously gives me an opportunity whilst being injured to, allow myself to, get involved with the coaching element and understand, the game in a different pair of eyes, because you can see it from a different perspective when you look at it with a coach's pairs of eyes on.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me now is obviously looking at these players who, like you said, we have that technical foundation, which is good. But now, do you actually understand what your role in the team is? Like, do you know your pitch geography? Can you smell and can you sense danger? Can you pick and choose the right times to support play? Or do you pick and choose the right times to give your fullback cover if he's bombing on? For example, all these kind of things. And I've really enjoyed trying to dissect these games. And actually, I think video analysis is a huge one. I think I can go and tell a player a million times, hey, listen, when the ball comes in, check your right shoulder and see if you can scan before and you can play a one-touch pass around the corner. If I actually break that clip down, freeze frame it, and then allow the player to look at that, their brain starts ticking and they're doing the work for themselves. And actually then that sort of sits on them. It allows them, they absorb it better. And then actually the next time that situation arises, they've already thought back to that, that clip or whatever it is, and boom, it does its job. So yeah, for me, like I'm really interested in that side of things. I want to develop young players into the professional world. I find my passion in that. I think I'm actually very good at it, just purely because I'm not trying to sit and say I'm some magical coach, but I've done the journey. Yeah. And I've seen the mistakes that I've made, and I've seen where I could have actually developed quicker if I'd had someone maybe like myself put an arm around me and actually, dissect my game, like I keep saying, but actually, giving me that mentor sort of side where, hey, listen, you're doing great, but these are the things that I see. Let's go and work on them, and I think we're going to develop quicker if we do that.
What was your lowest point during your career? Because I think we see a lot of, we see a lot on TV, everywhere. We see glory all the time. We see, especially professional footballers, they're not going to go on there. I'm not talking about you in specific, but in general, you don't usually go on an Instagram post and you see the struggles that people go through. Absolutely. Just not even footballers, just people in general. I always like to say, like, social media is many times just a highlight reel of people's lives.
It's just an illusion, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so with you, like, what were some of your...
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. So I went through a 2-year injury phase. I didn't know what my identity was. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where my future was going. I had 2 operations on a right knee, 1 operation on the left, multiple injections. Was obviously at that point thinking about retiring. I couldn't get fit. Stumbled across these, injections that managed to just rejuvenate my tendon tissue, which allowed me then to run and, obviously then go back to it. But those 2 years were the darkest 2 years of my life. I had no purpose. I didn't know who I was. I got out of bed. I had no purpose. I don't know what I brought to the world because all I've known is to go and play football. Now that gets taken away from me through no fault of my own, just through, overuse, Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it. And
Yep.
I now don't know what I bring to the table. I have mortgages I have to pay for. I have the same financial, responsibilities, and I'm now in a position where my legs don't work and I can't now go and earn a new contract. So someone please tell me what's going on right now because I don't understand it. So for me, they were confusing, they were daunting, they were depressing. And unfortunately, and this is the real world right now, we're all pieces of meat on a conveyor belt. We all have an end date. Now, if your end date comes closer because of an injury, no longer are you Rob Kiernan, the centre back. You are Rob Kiernan's injured. Let's get him out. He's draining us all. He's draining our finances because we can't play him, and he's no good to us. His knees don't work. So over the the course of a few weeks or whatever it might be, when you find out, hey, the rehab's not going too well, now the mindset shifts. It's like, wow, this is survival mode right now. And again, you talk about mentality. That's probably the toughest place. Those boys that are going through long injuries in the physio room, working on themselves, working on their own, working with a physio, maybe, it's a tough place. And I don't think enough gets done for those players. I actually remember asking a coach, hey, listen, I've just got back to fitness. And I've missed pre-season. I've missed 2 years. There's a fitness guy out in Dubai that I know, I trust. A lot of the players have gone to work with him. It's warm weather training. I was going to be training in oxygen tanks. I was going to be doing the whole thing. Altitude, mask, you name it, I was doing it. And he turned around to me and said, oh, you just want a holiday? And I just remember looking at him thinking, I've just sat on a physio bed for 2 years. Not one of you has even really given, an F about me, if you like. And I'm actually trying to fund this myself through my own finances. I don't want anything from you. I just want you to allow me to go and train in the heat so I can come back and play in this team. And I got laughed at. So as a human being, like the way you treat people, I think is the biggest thing. The man management for me is the biggest thing you can do. As if you want to be good at something, micromanage people and treat them as humans. That's what I've learned.
What's your I love that. It's gonna segue into this because you've seen a lot. Yeah, some players. I mean, I think most players go through their career. They have injuries. You get nicks and this and that. There, it happens. But 2-year layoff and probably in like your career, this isn't like towards like right at the end or whatever. Like this is probably, how old were you when that 2-year layoff happened?
27.
Oh, 27. That's many people say that's like
peak.
Yeah. So you've experienced all this nowadays. Now, where you are now, what gets you up in the morning? Like obviously you're still playing. I don't want to confuse like you're still playing. I understand that. But like
of course.
looking ahead, like what gets you up in the morning? What gets Rob up in the morning?
No, I love that. I mean, listen, yeah, you're right. Again, I am transitioning eventually into the new Rob Kiernan because the Rob Kiernan that played football since he was 6 years old, it's a different Rob Kiernan right now. And it's been an amazing journey, and I'm so happy and so lucky and so privileged to finish, hopefully my career at Orange County and, enjoy it for many, a few more years to come. But obviously I do have one eye on, what's next. And what gets me up in the morning is knowing that I can impact people. I can impact young, aspiring players. I can nurture their talent. I can work on them physically and mentally. And I can actually allow them and give them the best opportunity to go and perform on a stage. Now, something that I always talk to my players about is like, hey, we can do all the work we want to do. We can spend hours and hours and hours working it, but I can't do it for you. I'm giving you the foundation. I'm giving you the environment, and I'm giving you the motivation, hopefully, for you to go and flourish and to go and blossom. But you also have to find yourself on that journey a little bit yourself. Like you're the one that's going to have to roll your sleeves up. You're going to have to go into uncomfortable positions. You're going to get in the trenches a little bit. You're going to have to find out who you really are. You might have to go and pack your bags and move to the other side of the world. Do you really want it enough? Do you know? So for me, what gets me up is knowing that, hey, I can have a positive impact on these players because I've been there, I've done it, I've done the journey. I've been high, I've been low. I've seen it all. There's nothing here that I have not seen. And now I think if I can positively impact someone's career and life, why would I not?
We'll kind of end with this, and this is one of my favorite questions ever. And Yeah, I wonder if sometimes I wonder like if somebody asked me that. I ask it myself sometimes, but who do you want to be remembered as, or what do you want to be remembered for when it's all said and done? You're 120 years old. Hopefully, we get up there. I know you know about your diets and all that stuff.
Just you know what, as a clean-hearted human that offered everything and more, was authentic, was organic, and I just want to be remembered as someone that, hey, listen, you know, I managed to put a tiny footstep on the map of playing football. I enjoyed the journey. I enjoyed the part of being, you know, a little 1% of the 1% that managed to do it at the top level. That's a great little feeling to have. I think we saw the stat. I think you guys maybe touched on it. The 1% of the 1%. It's a tough industry, and to say that I've done that is a proud moment. But also, it doesn't define me as a human being. I want to be a good human that's here to help inspire, and I actually want to have an impact. I really want to help people go past what I did and reach the very top and see them flourish.
I'm in Orange County. I'm a young player, or I'm a parent, and I have kids who are young players, and I want to get them in touch with Rob. How do I go about that?
Yeah, for sure. So you see the little Instagram tag there? I think that'd be the best way to do it.
Robbie Kiernan.
Yeah, that'd be a great way to start. And yeah, listen, we have a lot of talented players in this little pocket of the world. So we're definitely going to see a few very soon, actually, go and put themselves on the map. So it's exciting times.
Sounds good. Fantastic. Rob, thank you so much, my guy, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, all the best to you. And you are, I really want to say this, like, I think your impact on other players will probably even what you've done in your professional career. I'm hoping it even far exceeds that, because I think you have the potential to change so many, even more lives. You've probably changed many lives already, but I think you're just going to keep exponentially doing that, my guy. So keep it up, man.
That's very nice. I appreciate your words, mate. And yeah, listen, thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it. It's actually very therapeutic at times as well to get some stuff off your chest. So yeah, I think what you guys are doing is amazing. And yeah, let's stay in touch. And yeah, let's do this. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Take care. Everybody, thank you for coming in. If you want to follow Rob or message Rob, get in touch with Rob. His Instagram is in the link below on YouTube, as well for Spotify listeners. Instagram link is in the description below. Just click it. It's clickable. RS Kiernan. Rob, thank you, mate. Take care.
Top man. Thank you.